Say what's cracking, YouTube. It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a pro violation. Yard down. Now, before I start this video, I want to give a special shout out to a few of my subscribers, Seth Cullins, Marsha Pitt Ridgill, and Neighborhood Q. Lately they hit me with a couple of friendly donations on my Cash App. I deeply appreciate it, so I just wanted to shout you guys out, acknowledge you, let you know that I appreciate you. Now we fist to hop into a story right here. This actually was a topic or a question that was asked by Kevin Henderson, and so I thought it was a pretty good question to do a video on. So let's get into it right now, man. You already know what it is, man. So the topic is, how are the elderlies treated in prison? Right now, he didn't really specify what particular age group that he was talking about, because when I was young and in prison, maybe 50 years old, 55 years old seemed elderly to me. That's not the case now, but so it all just depends on what exactly range number that he's talking about, right? But first and foremost, I believe the elderly at first glance, they are definitely given a little bit more respect than the average convict, simply due to the fact that they are elderly. So people are going to remember that they're elderly, but most importantly, they have to remember that they are elder as well. And what I mean by that is, when you're in prison, right, keep in mind, you are in prison with some people who don't have the best conflict resolution skills, some people who do not have the best anger management skills, and they are used to settling violence or settling confrontations through the use of violence, right? And so basically, I'm saying if the elderly person forgets that he's 65 years old and walking with a cane, the person that he's arguing with may forget that as well, right? Case in point, now when I first got to prison, I went to Salinas Valley, which is a level 4 180. There was a dude on the yard, right, or actually in my building. I talked to him a couple of months ago. He doesn't actually remember this incident, right? But I remember it quite vividly. His name is Scanless, and he was from Backstreet Watts. And now at the time, he was a young dude, I think 18 years old, 19 years old. Now, they put him in a cell with a dude who appeared to be about 65, and it was clear right off the bat that the dude that he was in the cell with definitely had some mental problems. Still in all, they had the dude on a level 4. I don't know what the dude had done. They had him on a level 4. And Scandalous was in the cell with this older dude, right? The older dude, I don't even think he didn't talk, or he didn't talk much. He said very little. But he was obviously, like I said, a little cuckoo in the head. So one day we happen to come back from chow, and Scandalous notices, or he thinks that the old man has been using his face towel. And then, Scandalous is talking about when they're in the cell, sometimes the dude is, babbling or just doing odd things. So Scandalous was ready to heat up some hot water in a hot pot, which is like basically a little crock pot thing that we could plug in to make hot water to use for soups and coffee and stuff like that. And he was ready to throw it on the old man, right? And so I said, hey man, you see the dude obviously got a little head problems. You don't probably have to go there with him, right? But so my whole point was, it all just depends on who you run across, who that elderly person may happen to get into, and his ideology, I guess, on dealing with older people. Now if a person doesn't appear as as an instant threat to me, and he's older, yeah, I probably would give him a little bit more leeway than the average convict, right? But now, due to the fact that he is older, that doesn't mean he can't kill you just as quick. Also, due to the fact that he's knowing that he's elder or older, he may try to use a weapon quicker than using his hands. Right now, for the most part too, I think, like I said, the elders are respected. Most people will give them the bottom bunk out of consideration, just to make it easier for them to do their time, and so they don't have to go up and go down. I told a story where I got into it with a dude who was older. I would say probably in his mid 50s, maybe even late 50s, by the name of Lawyer. I think the name of that, I can't even remember the name of that story. It was something about some mace or something, right? But now, if an elder happens to come in there and it's discovered that he has bad charges or something like that, he definitely gets no passes on that. They don't care about his age. I don't know if you guys keep up with prison news and stuff, but from time to time, maybe about 6 or 7 months ago, but from time to time, you'll see in the newspaper or wherever that an older person is stabbed and killed in prison. I think some dude was maybe about close to 60 and he was attacked by 2 other people 4 or 5 months ago. And so, like I said, his age definitely was a deterrent for these dudes to hop on his head and deal with whatever, obviously he had done up in there, right? I also told you guys a story about where I saw a dude basically get what they call a blanket party at a Corcoran, which was a level 2. This dude, due to the fact him being older and he wasn't a big dude anyway, when they came and threw the blanket over his head, I did feel a little bit, I felt it was a little, I felt a little sorry for the dude, but like I said, when you're in prison, people are not always gonna take your age into consideration and consider, how good of a shape that you are in or that you are not in either. Now, also too, now say sometimes you get old dudes in prison, right, or older dudes in prison who still want to run around and partake in all the activities, from buying weed, playing cards, gambling, doing slick stuff, So if a person happens to think that his age is going to get him a pass in his slick behavior, then he's sadly mistaken as well, because you have a lot of people in prison who are definitely still deeply involved in the criminal element, and that's how they make their money sometimes, and they have had these characteristics for so long, it's become second nature to them, and sometimes they don't even realize they're being slick, So yeah, your slick behavior definitely can get your head whooped when you're in prison, and a person is not going to necessarily give a pass on your age, right? There was this one dude also in Corcoran. Now he had to be probably about 65, somewhere around there, maybe. Not only was he old, this dude was completely blind, walking around on the yard with a cane. His name was JB. His name was JB, man. And I never forget, we just happened to be in the same pod. Me, JB, and another dude by the name of Silk. Now, Silk was probably in his late 30s to early 40s. Silk was probably about 6'2", maybe about 6'3", probably maybe about 225 pounds. And they got into an argument behind the radio. I can't remember whose radio was up too loud. I don't know if JB had his radio up too loud, or I believe JB was complaining that Silk's radio was too loud. Now we're on a level 2 in pod living, and so of course, if you're in a pod that contains 8 people, you got your radio up loud, and some people was extremely inconsiderate, with how they program without taking in consideration there's other people around, and so they provided us, or actually not provided us, but we could buy headphones, but some people did not want to use headphones or could not afford headphones or whatever, and did not take into consideration that the person sleeping right next to them may not want to hear their radio loud or whatever. But for whatever reason, JB and Silk got into an extremely heated argument. And like I said, Silk didn't care that JB was JB was old and he was blind. It got to the point where Silk was talking about, they was basically talking about fighting right then and there. And it got to the point where I had to step up and say, hey, man, don't you see the dude is 65 years old, man, and this dude was much bigger than me. But the thing is, I was raised to where you respect your elders. Also, this blind dude, JB, reminded me of my friend's grandfather, who I used to go visit all the time when I was younger, a dude by the name of Catcher Man. My father was real good friends with him. And so, he just reminded me of him all the time. And so, but like I said, that definitely, in some people's minds, your age is definitely not going to get you a pass. Now, let's talk about racial situations. Now, if you happen to be on the yard, an elder person, when a racial situation jumps out and it turns into a riot, you are definitely not exempt because of your age. A person don't care because of your age, if you on a cane, if you in a wheelchair. If a racial situation breaks out and a person of another race can get you, you definitely believe you're gonna be got. And so It's a sad situation, like I said, but it's true. People are in prison for preying on other people, for harming, for hurting people, and not caring. And so, of course, if you run across, and then a lot of times in these racial situations, it's not necessarily um, racially motivated why the riot jumps off. But once the riot does jump off, you do have people who participating who are racist or have a strong dislike for another race. And so they can't wait to, hurt somebody from another race, regardless of his age or whatever. Um, like I said, the dude who suggested that I do this topic, his name was Kevin Henderson, and he also asked me about do older people die in prison? And yes, I've seen several older people die, and it's definitely kind of sad, I happen to be at a prison by the name of CMC East, and I worked in the hospital. And I've seen several people in there pass away. And some of these individuals who passed away, I had been on the yard with them for quite a period of time. And so it definitely affected me in a different way. When you're seeing somebody pass away, literally right in front of your eyes, day by day, you can see his condition worsening. And you was on the yard with this dude, a dude by the name of Shoes. We played tennis together. He was much older than me. So, and he didn't look extremely old. Shoes probably was in his late 50s to early 60s. And every now and then, periodically, he would go to the hospital. I think maybe his back would go out or something like that. He might stay over there 2 or 3 weeks, and then he'd come back. One time now, he happened to go over there when I was working over there, and for whatever reason, his health just took a turn for the worse. It got to the point where he was in there and he had kind of was going through a state of dementia. He would sometimes talk incoherently or whatever, and he eventually passed away. And so, yes, that definitely was sad to see. And another good friend that I had by the name of Ed. Ed was a extremely funny dude. Ed probably in his mid 50s, probably in his mid 60s to late 60s. We used to play dominoes together all the time. And like I said, suddenly his health took a turn for the worse. And he went to the hospital area. He ended up coming back. Then maybe a few months later, he went back over there again, and he passed away. And what I noticed is a lot of times in prison, even though they do have a level of health care that's afforded to us, you have people who do not go and use these healthcare services for whatever reason. It only costs, I think, $5, a $5 copayment to go use the health services. And then if you don't have any money, you're allowed to go for free anyway. So, but for whatever reason, and I'm assuming probably just like on the streets, you have people who have a fear of hospitals, a fear of doctors, because they don't want to get any bad news. And so I realized that by the time some of these individuals who passed away would come to the hospital or come to the doctor, whatever illness they had progressed too far to really be saved. Now you do have jobs and groups of convicts who will work with the elderly. Actually, that was one of my jobs in there. And the name of the job was a caregiver. And so, they'll help the elderly go get their packages. A package is something that we can get every 3 months, or help them go to the store. A package is something that's sent. You order packages from the vendor, whether it's tennis shoes, clothes, hygiene, radios, stuff like that. So if you were unable to carry your package, you could ask for a caregiver. He could escort you over there, help you get your package. Some people who are unable to take care of themselves, or brush their teeth, do their daily activities, have caregivers and stuff like that. So they do provide a sense of help and people who are willing to work with the elderly and help them. So it just all depends on what particular prison that you happen to be at, who's around. But yeah, for the most part in prison, the elderly are definitely they're definitely protected. They're definitely helped and assisted. But like I said, it all depends on the behavior of that elderly person as well. As long as he remains respectful, people are going to try to help him. I told a story a while ago too about I had a cellie by the name of Kai, who happened to get into a fight with a dude who definitely probably would be considered, at least up there in age. He had, big old gray beard and stuff, OG, but OG was one of those dudes who didn't know how to sit down in terms of and act his age. You know, he wanted to still gang bang and carry himself as a gang member. And so when he and Marcelli got into an argument or whatever, and actually he was the one pushing for the fade. You know, he would always say he wasn't turning down no fades and all this and that. And so Marcelli had to be in his early 30s somewhere around there, and he went in there, beep boop bop, bop, boop, beep bop bop bop, beat the brakes off OG. But that's something that OG asked for. And so and OG would hobble around. He walked on a cane and stuff like that. So, like I said, it all depends on the actions of the elderly person too. At the end of the day, if you blind, 5'2", 125 pounds, you the one that have to remember all that stuff. You the one that have to keep in mind that I'm blind, 5'2", 120 before you go to arguing with somebody, because everybody's not gonna have mercy on you. But anyway, that's my story right there on that right there. Hopefully that was informative for those who are interested in something like that. Y'all already know what it is, man. It's your boy 16 to life. We got that video, that interview that I did with OG Chances. It's loading. I'm just waiting for YouTube to approve it. They've been back to playing games, taking forever to monetize my videos for whatever reason, and clear them for commercials. But the second that interview clears, I'm gonna drop it. You already know what it is. It's your boy 16 to life. Resume normal program.